lose to anybody. The Bulls went 6-0 during that run.
We ignore the year they lost.
If we ignore the loss to the Orlando Magic, yeah, they went. See what I'm saying? All right, old head, bring it back. You had me. You was doing good until you said that. Bow, boy, where you been? It's TeeJay, the artist. You rock with me. You are the smartest, and we back with another video, man. Part 2 of the 1 NBA old head versus 10 Gen Z fans. The first one was about Magic Johnson being a GOAT point guard. I said yes. Of course, some people are going to have Steph Curry. I'm not mad at that. Steph Curry does have 3 ball, but how I think of a point guard, I think of him as somebody that can assist. Steph Curry doesn't really do that. He can, but he doesn't. He's more lethal when he's running around like Rip Hamilton, but from the 3-point line. So we're going to move on to the next question. I'm not sure what it is, but oh wait, it was something about the 90s Bulls versus the 2010s Warriors. We're going to see what they got to say, because to be honest, that 3-point line is so deadly, and especially when the Warriors got KD. I don't know if them 90s Bulls is doing that. I don't know if they can beat them in the series. Now they'll be able to beat them when KD not on the team, but with them on the team, I'm just saying it get a little crazy. I understand they gonna be like, well, the defense, and there's no defense for somebody that's shooting from half court. And then who you gonna take away? You gonna double KD? Cool, Steph. You gonna double Steph? Cool, KD. You gonna find a way to double both? Cool, Klay Thompson, who can get 30 points in a quarter. Anyway, let's see what they have to say. Let's get into the video. Like, comment, subscribe. All right, let's go. Could you turn me up in the headphones a little bit?
And Magic Johnson, if you're going to double off me, I can play in the mid-range, and I can knock down open shots. And if I do that, now you have to come see me. And if you come see me, it comes the double. And I'm finding this guy. I'm finding that guy.
I remember this. He cooked him at the end.
You're home watching the playoffs. Meanwhile, we raising the trophy.
And he shook his hand. He loved that one. He couldn't do nothing but shake his hand. All right, here we go. The 1990s Bulls had a greater run than the 2010s Warriors. Oh, I thought they was battling each other. Okay. A greater run, the Bulls. I mean, it's 6 out of 10 of the year. Well, it's 89, 90. I guess you can count that as the 90s. 6 out of the 10 years, and then 2 of those years was Houston, and then at the end it was Kobe. I believe it was Kobe right after the Bulls. I'm not sure. I think it was Kobe. Actually, I might have to give this one to the Bulls. Yeah, I'm gonna have to give this one to the Bulls.
Yeah, I think their run was better than what,
because LeBron's run was better than the Warriors' run. If he went to the dang finals 8 straight times, I mean, even though he didn't win all of them, but he was there every single time. It was a different opponent. It was he went 4. It was the Thunder was there, the Spurs was there, then the Warriors was there. I mean, but let's see.
The Warriors did in 2010.
Are you saying for the era what they did is more impressive, or do you think if they played in whichever era, the Bulls would beat the Warriors?
I think that if they played in this era, I think that it would be a lot more of an advantage for the Bulls, because I'm trying to imagine not being able to put hands on Michael Jordan. I'm trying to imagine Steph Curry having to deal with the switches that you guys talk about. I'm trying to imagine him having to deal with Scottie Pippen in transition or in the half court. I'm trying to imagine with the triangle offense and as much action as the Golden State Warriors run, the triangle offense was revolutionary. And that kind of action, I'm trying to imagine the Warriors trying to deal with that, even with Kevin Durant.
It was revolutionary.
I'm sorry, like I said before, that 3-point line, bro. That 3-point line, bro.
Revolutionary for 1992.
Sure.
Nowadays, to think a team is going to come out here and have any X's and O's that are revolutionary when you have 30-plus years of smart coaches making smart adjustments. Just on that level, everything that Steve Kerr knows that version of Phil Jackson doesn't have the ability to know, it would be a bloodbath in that regard. Just from the pure X's and O's, the way that they're going to switch and peel back.
Okay, we got 2 people that can have an intelligent conversation. I know the last time we had some people on here, they sounded ridiculous. We got a battle, y'all.
Back and recover. It's going to be no contest there. So I guess we can put that aside if that wasn't a thing. You think on paper the talent level was better across the roster?
I don't think that the talent level on paper was that far apart. I mean, don't get me wrong, you add Kevin Durant to a Warrior squad. I mean, that's like adding Shaq to the 96 Bulls. I mean, that's almost unfair. However,
It was unfair. That was a horrible time to watch basketball.
there are ways to neutralize things like that. And what the Chicago
How?
Bulls did, which I want to make sure that I'm clear with the run that they had. I mean, Michael Jordan, 4 to 6 years that he played on that team, they won 60-plus games, including a 67, a 73, and a 69-win team. They were running through the league, a much more physical league at that time in terms of scoring. There were teams specifically there to beat them. And the triangle offense was just revolutionary with all the action that they had.
But if you put the Bulls in the 2010s era, the triangle offense has been like passed by. That wouldn't be a thing because they know it now. You know what I'm saying? Like, because it was good then, it worked then. That doesn't work now. I think they, like, a couple teams tried it. It just is not like that no more.
Was it worse at offense or was it more physical? Because you could say it's more physical because they're banging around down low. I would say today is less physical because the shooters are out there and it's a lot harder to bang around. Because if you're focused on banging around down low, having these enforcers on the court, you're going to get destroyed by all the skill level across the court. And it doesn't get higher skill level from 1 through 10 on the roster than the 2017 Warriors. I think if you're talking who's going to play each other today and have a chance to, win a 7-game series in this era or that,
Warriors.
not a contest there. And
It's Warriors.
if you want to look at who has a more impressive run, I think it's pretty clear the overall skill level is higher across the league today. You said teams were built to beat the Bulls back then. They were built to beat the Warriors too. It was a shorter run, so I guess you saw less of a league-wide roster construction. But we had the Rockets, we had the Cavs, in the same way that you can say who they played was more impressive to you in the Bulls for whatever reasons, they did have to face a player who is arguably just as good, if not better, than Jordan himself, and they beat him.
LeBron James.
Multiple times. So I don't know what you give to the Bulls besides longevity, which, they stuck together longer. Good for them. They had the break in the middle to revitalize themselves that Kevin Durant didn't give the Warriors a chance to do. So besides longevity, I don't think they peaked better. I don't think they would 1v1. I don't think they play tougher competition. I'm not sure why they get the greatest dynasty of all time over the Warriors.
Well, you just mentioned something that was really interesting. The greatest part about having the burden of proof putting on you, you have to make sure that you give that person things that they can't explain. So, for example, you just talked about them having the run that they had, the Golden State Warriors, and sure that they ended up they lost to some teams. Well, the Bulls didn't lose to anybody. The Bulls went 6-0 during that run.
If we ignore the year they lost,
If we ignore the loss to the Orlando Magic, they went. See what I'm saying? All right, old head, bring it back. You had me. You was doing good until you said that. 6-0, they never lost. Yes, y'all did. Y'all lost to the Orlando Magic. Jordan came back. He came back with number 45. We beat him in one of those playoff games. One of our players said, that ain't 23. He number 45 now. He ain't like that. They made a big thing about him changing his number back to 23. He won that next playoff game, but he lost that series. People forget that the Orlando Magic beat Jordan right before he then goes on to win those 3. See, old head, we caught you. We caught you lying. You lost. You did lose. You tried to say, well, when they got it good, they never lost. Yes, they did.
And the teams that they lost to, the Golden State Warriors in particular, they had the biggest collapse in NBA history. They actually won 73 games. Not only did they win 73 games, they were up 3-1 in the series and could have won. That never happened to the Bulls in any stretch.
So you're referencing pre-KD. That's like me referencing early Jordan before he was actually the version he is of himself. That's not the same type of team. 20s KD on is the one that's the best team of all time. So the baby version of that wasn't quite superpower like you said. They added Shaq to the Bulls. Yeah, they lost beforehand, but when we talk about the best team of all time,
you are aware that they won 73 games without KD. You are
and they got even better. They got even better. So imagine that. Imagine 73 adding KD. Right. That's why it's such a non-contest.
Well, think about why they had to add KD. They had to add KD because they lost at their superpowers.
KD's the version.
Really quickly, but that Bulls run of 6 championships in 8 years, 4 times winning over 60 games, Michael Jordan winning the league MVP 1, 2, 3 times during that stretch. That team never losing in the NBA Finals, running through the Eastern Conference, I believe, in 1996, and running through the NBA the way that they did. Even in that era, or the 60s or the 70s, the 80s or 90s, I don't think that that's been matched.
You know what?
By
If
Golden State
free agency
Warriors.
was around like it was today, Scottie Pippen would have left early and they would have had that chance. So that's the
Well,
difference.
Okay, let's wrap it up.
That's true. The players dang near felt like the contracts that was it. They had to stay. They didn't really move around like that. I feel like that's what is something that the old head basketball players are kind of mad at. They didn't know that they could do whatever they wanted. They just let the organizations pretty much manipulate everything. I think if it was more movement back in the day, some of them teams that we love would not have been together, especially not for that long.
People, thank you.
Hey, I liked him.
This is a great one. It's a heavyweight battle right here.
Oh.
Nephew, what up?
What's up, OG?
What up, brother?
I feel like there's a blatant disrespect for the 2017 Warriors once they got Kevin Durant. I think if you're talking about the Warriors in 2015 and 2016, you have an argument. I think there's too much talent on the post-Warriors with Kevin Durant for them to not be as good as the Bulls.
Yep.
You have Steph Curry, you have Klay Thompson, you have Kevin Durant, you have Draymond Green, you also have Andre Iguodala off the bench. We're talking about a 5-year run that should have ended in 4 NBA championships. They should have three-peated with KD. They didn't because he got hurt.
That is true. He got hurt, then Clay followed up and got hurt. Yeah, that's true. The Toronto Raptors should not have a championship right now if KD was not hurt.
I know.
Also, KD wouldn't have left if Draymond Green would have shut the hell up.
Oh, and I think you agree. A healthy Warriors beats the 2019 Raptors in the finals.
I think that's a legit argument, but to counter what you just said, so in the 1995-96 Bulls that won 72 games, so they had the best player in the game in Jordan, they had the best all-around player in the game in Scottie Pippen, they had the best rebounder in the game in Dennis Rodman,
Yeah.
they had the best six-man in the game in Tony Kukoc, they had the best coach in the game in Phil Jackson, and they had the second best marksman in the game in Steve Kerr. That doesn't sound like an okay team. That sounds like a pretty damn good team to me.
And we're talking.
And I'm glad you said that. Because the way that Jordan fans talk, that motherfucker did it by himself. Let's run that back. Run it back, OG.
96 Bulls that won 72 games. So they had the best player in the game,
Jordan.
They had the best all-around player in the game in Scottie.
Scottie.
They had the best rebounder in the game in Dennis
Dennis
Rodman.
Rodman.
They had the best six-man in the game in Tony Kukoc.
All Hall of Famers.
They had the best coach in the game in Phil
Hall of Famer.
Jackson. And they had the second best marksman in the game in Steve Kerr.
Hall of Fame. And he probably going to be in the Hall of Fame because of the coach side. But thank you. Jordan fans let you know that Jordan did it by himself and Scottie Pippen wasn't that good. And no disrespect to Horace Grant. Let's put some respect on his name too. Horace Grant was there in the first one.
That doesn't sound like an okay
I'm just
team.
saying.
It sounds like a pretty damn good team to me.
And we're talking about the Warriors
100%.
who got a unanimous MVP, another MVP. The Bulls did not have 2 MVPs on their team.
That's true. But Scottie, the year that Jordan was out of there, he actually was up for the MVP, which is crazy.
The Warriors did. They had a defensive player of the year in Draymond Green, who you can argue is one of the best defensive players that has ever played.
Sure.
I won't do that because I don't like the dirty part.
And Klay Thompson, one of the best
Klay Thompson was crazy. He can get 30 points in a quarter and don't dribble the ball.
3-and-D players in the history of the game. And Andre Iguodala, I could compare him to Tony Kukoc. I think Tony Kukoc offensively could be better.
Yep.
Defensively, Iguodala is better. And if we're
Yeah, Andre Iguodala, he locked up LeBron. He held LeBron to 30 points. And he got a Finals MVP.
playing by today's rules where there's zone defense, the Bulls did not have to run into zone defense back then because I implemented in the 2000s.
That's another thing. There was something called illegal defense back in the day. So you couldn't hang around and play zone. You had to man up. So Jordan being a one-on-one type player, and I can do this myself, is because he actually could. If you wanted to double team somebody, you had to go you had to hurry up and go double team. You couldn't hang around. You know what I'm saying? Like if I'm guarding Jordan at the 3-point line and he get past me, you can't hang around in the paint. You got to go guard your man. So I'm left all alone on this island unless somebody comes to double team right away.
So I'm thinking about the spacing of that team and how it would compare to the Warriors, who you couldn't help off anybody. Steph Curry.
I wonder what Jordan would look like if they were able to implement more zone defense back in the day.
He had so much gravity. They were helping off of Kevin Durant, and he was getting wide open jump shots. We're talking about leaving 40% 3-point shooters open.
Yep.
Almost
But
every
naked.
possession down the court.
Yep.
And then the last thing I'll mention is that I feel like the Bulls did not play a big three as good as the 2017 Cavaliers with LeBron James, Kyrie Irving, and Kevin Love. Their run might have been dominant, but they did not play a team as good as that Cavaliers team.
So let's go back to what.
Do we give Karl Malone and the Utah Jazz better than LeBron James with Kyrie? Do we give the Seattle Supersonics, Sean Kemp and Gary Payton better than the Cleveland Cavaliers? Do we give Clyde Drexler and the Trailblazers? I think that's, yeah. Do we give Magic, but they were old? I was about to say the Lakers, but they was old. You might be right. I don't.
What you just talked about when you talked about the team that they not the team that they were playing. So let's go back to what you talked about MVP. So Scottie Pippen finished third in the MVP.
But he didn't win it.
No, he didn't.
No.
But we didn't know that he was that good. We did not know that.
KD is that
Who you didn't?
good, though.
We didn't know that not the team that they were playing.
Wait,
let's go
we
back
didn't
to
know
what you
that
talked about
Scottie was
MVP.
that good.
Scottie Pippen finished third in the MVP.
But he didn't win it.
No, he didn't.
No.
But we didn't know that he was that good. We did not know that.
KD is that good, though.
We didn't know that he was that good. 100%. And remember why KD got on that crew. The same reason why Steph Curry was already on the crew. Because you can't beat him without us, and we can't beat him
It's
without
'cause it's
you.
LeBron
We didn't
James.
have to worry about that, though, because I'm already on the crew. And now we get a rebounder in Dennis Rodman who makes us so much better. He's a defender who makes us so much
But
better.
the Bulls
And
also
way-
didn't have LeBron.
Right.
They didn't have to play LeBron James.
You know, the reason why they didn't have to play LeBron James
because they had,
already had him.
yes, I
That would
understand.
make, right.
Listen, I think
Good point, OG. Good point, OG. He didn't have to play LeBron because technically Jordan was the LeBron in this scenario. So, bigger point. If the Warriors don't put that together, guess who has more rings? Do y'all see me making my own counterpoints out here? Did you just see that? If Jordan is able to just do what the fuck he want, he gets 6 rings. Because he is, what OG said, is the LeBron in this scenario. The Warriors were not a team that Jordan had to play against. Could you imagine if the Utah Jazz added Sean Kemp and Gary Payton to the squad? Put all the teams together and then, you know what I'm saying?
I think you can argue for MJ being a GOAT.
100%.
But what I'm saying is that the Bulls did not have to play a team as good
Sure.
as the LeBron James-led Cavaliers.
Well-
I don't think they've played a team as good as the 2019 Raptors.
Well,
I think the 2019 Raptors, you look at top to bottom depth with Fred VanVleet, Kawhi Leonard, Kyle Lowry, Marc Gasol, Pascal Siakam, Serge Ibaka. I don't think any of the teams the Bulls played in the finals is better.
We're as good as those. See, now I might have to disagree. I don't know. We don't really know how good that 2019 Raptors was. I would love to have seen them versus the KD Warriors. Now, if the KD Warriors was healthy and then they beat them, then I would say, yeah, I don't know who else was better, but or it just took them to 7 or something. But all right,
better than that team.
You sure about that? Because
Yes.
I don't know. That 98 Jazz team was
They
pretty
were like
damn
36 years old.
good. Right. And they were leading the league in score. They were leading the league in scoring that year.
all right. I'm gonna give the young fella. These two are good. The one that went before that guy and him, they got their facts straight. I like these two.
That's including with the Bulls running around.
I like
Leading
these
the
two.
league in scoring that year. They had a league MVP.
Also, they're debating so good. I don't know if y'all noticed back here. When people hear something, they come down and they sit in these 2 chairs. When they sit in these 2 chairs, that means they're next. Nobody's sitting in these 2 chairs, bro. Nobody want that smoke. Unless he is in a chair and he coming up next.
They had one of the better lockdown defenders in Brian Russell. They had a great dirty work guy in Austin Carr. They had everything that's necessary. Like you just
The Raptors have that though, because
Right.
I didn't mention Danny Green,
Yep.
who you can with Brian Russell, 3-point shooting, defending.
Sure.
He's one of the best 3-and-Ds as well. So
Sure.
I think the Raptors just overall had more depth. Maybe you want to argue Karl Malone and John Stockton. They had
Sure.
more star power. firepower, but I'm looking at Kawhi Leonard, Pascal Siakam, Kyle Lowry.
Yep.
Those are 3 all-star level players on one team.
Right. And with that being said, I think that the teams that the Bulls ran into, that Phoenix team, that Portland Trailblazers team, that Seattle team, I think that those teams are comparable to the teams.
Oh yeah, Phoenix. I forgot Charles Barkley was there once, but we don't know how good they were. But were they good as LeBron and them Cavs? LeBron and Kyrie, bro. Come on, man. They dropped 41 apiece in the same game, bro. Come on.
In the 2010s in terms of champions. Now, I can't say with the Cleveland Cavaliers team because they won it. So I think that that's a little bit different. But in terms of losers, I think that all of those loser teams are comparable, including the 2019 Toronto Raptors. I think they're comparable to all those teams. Absolutely.
Good job.
Wow. Very respectable, too. We love to see it. All right, next
I ain't
up.
gonna lie, them tools cooking. All right, don't mess this up, my boy.
Back again? Hold on, let me roll my sleeves up a little.
Let's be nicer this time.
I think I don't remember if he was good or not. We finna find out.
No, I'm not going to be civil. Not with you.
Okay, well, I think this conversation is interesting. I think when you talk about longevity, you talk about the teams of what they won, who they played, I think you got to respect the era. I think the Chicago Bulls, I respect what they've done. I think Golden State, you respect what they've done. When it comes to playoffs, it talks about matchup. Everything's situational. Everything is about matchup. Let's talk about the matchup itself. Golden State's best versus Chicago's best. I don't think Chicago has played a team that does what Golden State does offensively. We talk about 2 guys.
That is true. It's the 90s. Nobody was shooting the lights out like that. Before he say anything, Draymond Green, Dennis Rodman, they're the battle. I don't know if they're equal, but they going to be battling. They going to be fighting. They going to be doing all that stuff. All right, get them out of here. KD and Jordan. That has to be the matchup because unless Jordan just like, you know what? I don't want to guard him. So, Scotty, you go get KD. I'm going to get Steph. But Jordan is probably not running all over the place to chase Steph because that nigga got to run all over the place. Then, if you do have that guarded, then you got Klay Thompson just waiting. Locked and loaded. He don't even got a dribble. He just going to drop 30 in the quarter. I'm sorry. I actually don't know how you would guard that. Even with the Bulls, I don't know how you would guard that. I don't think they don't have enough. They legit don't have enough. I'm sorry, they don't have enough.
Steph Curry and Klay Thompson that constantly is running. The cardio is at a different level than they've ever seen. We're talking about a guy in Draymond Green that gets the ball off a pick and roll and can make any pass in the short roll, in the high roll. We're talking about a guy in Kevin Durant, which you just can't guard. He can get to his spots. And then you bring up Sean Livingston, the best mid-range shooter ever.
I forgot about Sean Livingston. That if you go Google it, I think at one point they made it to where when you Google, has he ever missed a mid-range shot? It'll tell you he has never missed a mid-range shot.
Off the bench, somebody who can come and give you buckets. And then on top of that, the collection of role players that they have, what they had an Ian Clark at one time, Festus Ezeli.
I remember that.
Ezeli, Kevon Looney. I mean, this team, how do you guard a team like that when you have MJ, who is going to have to average 35, 40 points a game in that series? Now you have to tire him out on offense because defensively he has to chase Klay, he has to chase Steph, or he has to guard Kevin Durant. You can't just put him on Draymond. What is Dennis Rodman going to do in that series offensively? How are they going to look? I just think it's a mismatch because you have offensively.
That is true. Jordan's going to have to drop 40 a game. Not saying that he can't, but he will. But who's going to come along with him? You see what LeBron them had to do in they first game, they lost in 5. The second time they didn't have Kyrie, they lost in 4. So it's like he got to drop 40, but Scotty got to drop 40, and then that's 80 points right there. But you know the Warriors finna put up 130. So who else coming along? Steve Kerr not dropping. Steve Kerr not dropping 30 points. I don't even know what Steve Kerr high. You know what? Hey Siri, what was Steve Kerr's career high in points?
On April 17th, 1992, Steve Kerr set his career high in points in the NBA game. That day, he scored 24 points in Cleveland's road win against Indy.
24 points. Can Steve Kerr get you 24? Apparently, yes. But can he do it over a 7-game series?
A Golden State team that loves to move the ball around, a Golden State team that loves to move, gets the ball open. And with Chicago, they just played a style that fits more into the 90s, in an era where you need to put up a lot of threes, in an era where you need to match offensive ability. I don't think they could do that.
I think what we're missing, we're missing the point that you just mentioned, how good the Warriors were against the Cavs. How good were the Warriors against Memphis?
I'm thinking Houston, the Spurs.
Right, and I don't know if you know this, but the Bulls, 5 of their 6 championships,
Amazing.
they beat 5 different teams.
Amazing.
So it's not like they only went against one team.
I
Like,
know
we're
what you
talking
mean.
about the Cavs.
But they never played anybody like the Warriors, though, right? None of those teams that they played were the Warriors. None of those teams that they played was the Cavs either. But none of those teams was the Warriors.
Him having to run up against the Cavs. In order for them to win the NBA championship, they had to beat the Lakers. They had to beat the Trailblazers, who had a damn good team with Terry Porter and Drex and Jerome Kersey and Kevin Duck
And none of them is Steph and KD and Clay.
and Buck Williams, an all-league defender.
Don't know who Buck Williams is. I'm pretty sure he good, but he not as. I'm pretty sure if you put a top 25 NBA all-time, Buck Williams not on that list, but Steph, KD, not Clay. But Steph and KD might be on that list.
That he was. And on top of that, they had to beat the Phoenix Suns, who also had a band of guys, and Dan Marley and Charles Barkley and all of these guys who they had who were very good at everything that they did. And then you move into the 1995-96 season when they had to play Seattle, who owned the Houston Rockets, which, by the way, Jordan was lucky enough that he had to see Olajuwon in the playoffs, because if he had to, then that would have been a problem for him. But then,
I've never heard anybody say that, because they claim that if Jordan stayed those 2 years, well, he came back the second year and Orlando Magic beat him. But if he was still in the league those 2 years that the Houston Rockets won, that he would have beat Houston too. The old head just said it. Let's run it back.
96 season when they had to play Seattle, who owned the Houston Rockets, which, by the way, Jordan was lucky enough that he had to see Olajuwon in the playoffs, because if he had to, then that would have been a problem for him.
I ain't never heard nobody say that. Shout out to the old head.
But that Seattle team, that they had a band of characters with Hersey Hawkins and Gary Payton and Nick McMillan and Sean Kemp. And then they had to move into play against the Utah Jazz. We're talking about a team who beat almost a whole division.
I mean, OG,
in order to win the NBA championship.
OG.
The amount of times that they did that.
OG, if you want to go band for band, we could do that. I mean, Golden State played the Memphis Grizzlies with Mike Conley, with Zach Randall, with
Oh, I remember them. Hey, that's a real Memphis team right there. Zebo.
Marcus Gasol. They played the Houston Rockets with Chris Paul, with James Harden. They played Cleveland with LeBron, with Kyrie. We can go to the Spurs. They played Kawhi. They played LA. They played Pau Gasol. Like, this is a Golden State team that's played a plethora of talent. I mean, talk about Damian Lillard. They paid him and they swept him too. Without Kevin Durant, that's a crazy feat to do that.
Right.
Like, this is a team that's also played a collection of really good talent in a West that's always been, in my lifetime, better than the East. We can even go back in the 90s. I think this West right now, or what Golden State was in, you could say it is more talented than the East in the 90s. So a team like Golden State, like I said, if you want to keep talking.
Yeah, see, that's another good point. Nobody really talks about the East being weak back in the 90s era. They just say that Jordan dominated it. We didn't start hearing that the East was weak until LeBron dominated it, and they just said, well, ain't nobody in the East. No, just say he dominated it, bro. It's okay. You can say he dominated it, bro. It's okay, I promise. I promise.
About their accolades, Golden State beat a plethora of really good to great teams. We can even talk about before Kevin Durant, when they beat that OKC team when they were down 3-1.
Right.
This team beat a lot of teams. When we talk about matchup for matchup and when they size up against each other, I mean, what's the man? You got Ron Harper guarding Steph.
Yes.
You got MJ guarding Clay.
Yep.
And then you got Scottie Pippen guarding Kevin Durant.
Right.
Now we're talking about Michael Jordan and Ron Harper seeing 35,000 screens in the game that they've never seen before in their life. They're going to be so puzzled, so fizzled. They're not going to know what to do.
I think you thrown off the track that the triangle offense was a lot of action. There was a lot of moving. So with that,
I'm with
we also have to guard against that too. So
That's
it's
a
not
fact.
like we're just running that offense. So we also have to guard against that too. So with us guarding against that, we know how to get around screens. We know how to slip screens. We know how to go under screens. But with all of that being said, the collection of we have to stay on point in what this was. And when I think about the Bulls run and what the Bulls did during that time,
He brought it back to the question. I like what he doing.
so having to beat the Knicks who they were favored, who was favored against them in 1993 in a 6-game dogfight, same Knicks team that in 19.
Whoever did that was stupid. Who favored the Knicks over the Bulls with Michael Jordan on it? What y'all doing?
93 had won 27 straight games at home. They go into their building in the playoffs in the East Finals and beat them. That's almost impossible to do. And then you move into Phoenix when they beat them. It's a team that won 60 games. They beat them in their building for the NBA championship. Then you move into Seattle, how difficult. In Seattle, they beat them twice during the regular season. They had ended up beating them. The Utah Jazz, who came back the next season after they had beaten them, who were even better. And when they were better, they still ended up beating them. So when we're talking about having challenges, when we're talking about having to deal with tough stuff, I think that the Chicago Bulls, that run that they had during that time, when everybody thought that they were over, it was really impressive.
All right, we're actually going to move on to the next topic. But, judges, any updates? Who has the lead right now?
I mean, that one was very,
That was good.
very,
Yeah,
very close.
That was
very
hard
close.
fought.
That was a good round right there. That was a good question right there for those. So how I see it, the old head won the very first question. Go back on my page to go look at that. But this particular one, it's a toss-up.
For me, it's just tough. I felt like they were talking about a 3-year stint of the Warriors with Kevin Durant, while you were talking about 8 years where they won 6.
Yeah, they didn't quite attack them.
That's true. That's true. We were just talking about the 2017 Warriors in the grand scheme of things, but he was talking more along the lines of the actual Bulls run. So I guess you got to get that to the old head too.
Also, if we're talking about injuries, was Kevin Love and Kyrie Irving not hurt during the 2015?
Well, and how about Kawhi getting hurt against the Warriors? And
Zaza Pachulia.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Draymond had to put a hit out on Kawhi with Zaza.
Right.
I'm just saying.
I think
Since we're on the subject of the 90s, I think one of the biggest problems that I have is that people talk about the 90s being overrated.
The 90s era of the NBA is not overrated. Hey, you know what? I'm gonna stop it right here. I think I like where this is going. I like that I'm doing one question at a time. I could just put the whole video around each question. Because if I keep going, it's just gonna be a long, you know what I'm saying? Because I don't want y'all to sit here and watch 30 minutes of me. We're gonna just cut it like this right here, and we're gonna go on to the next one. So hey, stay tuned for the 90s era of the NBA is not overrated. Do I think the 90s era of the NBA is overrated? No, that's where some of our greats came from, man. It's not overrated, but I think that question comes from the fact that that little TikTok thing went viral when it was like, we done with the 90s. Like that's why this is a thing. But we're going to see what they say in the next video. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, man. Peace.